Tim,
Bob, how are you?
how are you? Great seeing you.
You too.
How's everything going?
It's going good. It's going good.
I see you're back in LA.
No, I'm here in Cooperstown.
Oh, you are in Cooperstown. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about your life and with the Angels and everything you've done. And
Well, it's a long story, and we'll give you the Reader's Digest and answer your questions. It's all a blessing, really.
yeah.
It's just it started as a fan, and certainly in '69, and as once we moved out from California or from Washington, Arlington, Virginia, actually, and listened to a game with Dick Enberg.
Hey, he was the UCLA announcer for Coach Wooden too.
Yes, sir. And I listened to the Red Sox Angel game on the radio and transistor, and
I remember those.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was just kind of smitten with Enberg's voice, certainly, but the Angels. I
right.
grown up with the Senators and came out here and went to school, followed both the Angels and the Dodgers, went to as many games as you possibly could, and had the chance. I wrote letters to the Angels in 1980 about being an intern, and 3 letters, and things kind of came together. I remember when I was intern in '80, taking letterhead home, just because I thought, man, I'll never have a chance to have Red Sox or Yankee or Oriole letterhead from the game notes. So I put them in a folder and kind of slide them out at night, because I thought, wow, look at this, real letterhead from a major league team.
Right.
40 years later, you leave there and come here, but to Cooperstown. But the time on the club level, the time here in Cooperstown is a blessing from the good Lord. That's the way I look at it.
That's exactly right.
I'm
No, you're from the East Coast?
What's that?
You're from the East Coast?
Born in kind of different east. I was born in Athens, Greece.
Oh, that was way far east. Yeah.
Mediterranean.
Yes. So it's a tad of a long road trip.
Yeah.
But to do all this, to grow up working in the game you love, I can't really accurately describe it, other than there are days you just wake up, or you would stand there in a press box and see history, or you walk through the plaque gallery here in Cooperstown, and you just realize how lucky you are. That's the most important thing to me. Is I never looked at it as me. I looked at it as the opportunity to be around something that we'll read about for years. And it's not always great moments by great players or superstars or milestones, but sometimes it's the nuances of the game. That kid that's been in the minor leagues for 8 years, and he gets to make his major league debut, and just in a pinch situation while somebody's on the DL, or a September call up, or seeing a player whose family's been there with him through everything, and he makes his debut, and you see that embrace on the field. You get to see the emotions and tough times in the clubhouse. I think I just had lunch with a gentleman, and we were talking about being around perceived celebrities, but to realize there are people with great skill sets and talents and platforms, and how they maximize their opportunities. That's the greatest gift of what I've been able to do for a long time.
So when you went out there, you never wanted to be a Dodger? You went right to the Angels?
I love the Dodgers too. I mean, we spent a lot of time going both places. Dodger Stadium, like I said, I grew up right outside of San Bernardino, so it was a little bit longer drive to Dodger Stadium than the Angels. Right. But I had a couple of good buddies that we would come, 6th period at high school, and look at each other and say, let's go see the game tonight. And we would drive to LA, and
wow.
Thank the good Lord that we had some good parents that just understood our spontaneous attitudes to do things. I mean, we drove to San Francisco on a whim.
Really? Sounds like fun.
It was fun. It was fun. There were 3 of us just said, hey, let's go. The Dodgers play an afternoon game at Candlestick tomorrow. Let's drive up there. And we did. So a lot of my spontaneous wild stories had to do with baseball.
Oh, absolutely. So you got there in 1980? Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
And you've seen a lot of people come and go. What were those Angels like, that team?
Well, in '80 it was a tough year after winning their first championship Western Division title in '79. A lot of injuries in 1980.
Right.
God, I think I went through 4 or 5 different catchers. Dave Skaggs, Tommy Donahue, Whitmer, Dan Whitmer, I think it was. Just, a lot of names. But for me, my eyes were just so wide open.
Sure.
Major League
Who wouldn't
players.
be?
Yeah. And at 22, you're looking up to them as, a lot of the players that you've grown up with, and you're in a major league clubhouse. And I'll tell you both. I mean, I don't care whether you're 22 years old or 63 years old. If you walk into a clubhouse and you're not respectful or appreciative of it, then you've missed the opportunity. And I really don't care whether you're a beat writer that's been there doing it 30 years. It's a special place. Being around these guys to know them as people is a tremendous opportunity.
Sure.
So I kind of evolved as the club evolved. Second full year with the Angels, because you have to exclude the internship year. We have Reggie Jackson, Brian Downing, Freddie.
Right. I was gonna ask you about Reggie and Gedward Carew, right?
Yes. And
how great a hitter was he? Ooh.
Phenomenal hitter. But you go postseason against the Brewers,
right.
And you just think, wow, this is the way it's going to be postseason. 4 years later, we have one of the greatest seasons, but yet, tough. I'm not going to say collapse, but tough emotional postseasons when we're up 5-2 in the top of the ninth, 1 pitch away with a 3-1 lead in a series, and don't go to the World Series against the Mets. So a lot of things happen that, they're still at the forefront of your mind. And the great thing about getting older is you'll talk about people that were involved at that time, and it brings something out and a great memory. And it can be a conversation, something you haven't thought about in 15, 20 years. That's the beauty of being somewhere. And it doesn't have to be just sports, but somewhere a long time. And I guess the end of it for you and Rob, for when all is said and done, it's the moment you experienced, but more importantly, it's the relationships and friendships you established.
Everybody I've ever talked to said that. I mean, they miss the people more than, the rigmarole of doing it all. But what you're saying is you enjoyed every step, which is amazing.
Well, there's no uniformity to it. Every day is different. We had things we had to do, but if you're in a 5-game winning streak, something was going to happen different. If you're in a 5-game losing streak, there's going to be a different tone. I always said, like, you talk to people in the Diamond Club, if we're winning, the food service was great and the food was warm. If you're losing, the food service was slow and the food was bad. It's just this, and that's part of the beauty of the game. You look at 162 games, but every day something different could happen, and that's the best part of it. But you can also watch players, and you realize when you're close to them, the everyday struggles outside of just playing the game. I mean, their husbands, their fathers, their sons, they have things that they need to tend to. They have people they have to please. Everybody wants a part of them in some degree. And, I'll probably say this 5 more times, but when you get to know them as people, it's a much better treat than just getting to watch them as players.
Right.
Tim,
Of course.
I'm Rob, by the way, Bob's co-host here on the show.
And friend.
Very good friend. And amongst all these memorable moments you've clearly had, in particular with being president of the Baseball Hall of Fame, what's the most memorable moment you have of that experience, the most recent?
It's a great question. I think probably being in the dinner in July of 19. When that class was inducted, and you have Musina and Lee Smith and Harold Baines and Edgar, Roy Halladay, but you get to see all the Hall of Famers together. And it reminded me a little bit of a major league clubhouse. And, when you're looking at the fraternity of the Hall of Famers, they're the greatest fraternity on the planet, really.
Sure.
Sports, definitely. But even in a clubhouse, Mike Trout, when he came up, would show deference to Albert because of his career and everything Albert had been through and accomplished. Even as great as Mike is.
He sure is.
When you come into this fraternity and you look around, when you have Hank Aaron there or Sandy Koufax in the room, even the younger generation, and they're all part of that same group, they showed deference and respect. And I think that was cool. That was cool to watch for me. I think to watch Ted Simmons after all these years become emotional when he was elected, and Larry Walker, who comes out the day of his selection saying, appreciate everybody's support. I'm not anticipating it happening, and then to be elected. And then you look at the flip side of it. Did Derek Jeter have any doubts that he was going to be in the Hall of Fame? Personally,
No.
Privately?
No.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
However, I liken it to this situation. When we're about to be dads, we know in 9 months we're going to be dads.
Right.
So it's like, it's going to happen. Okay. We pray to the good Lord, it's going to happen.
Right.
But when that moment happens, even though you've anticipated, you've expected, there's still something special about it. So
Sure.
for Derek Jeter or anybody else that probably is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, there's still something magical when you hear the words, whomever introduces that player as being selected as a member of the class of whatever.
Now he's going in this year, and it would have been last year had it not been for the flu, the virus, right?
Right. He's the class of 2020 will be honored in the class of in the July of 2021.
Are you going to be there when he gets in? Because I know that you stepped down.
Yeah, most likely not. Be back in California and hopefully getting ready for the arrival of a new granddaughter.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now,
That's one of those moments, like getting in the Hall of Fame. You're gonna be a grandparent.
Absolutely. I have a 2.5-year-old grandson, and he's going to be a big brother, and that's going to be an exciting time to be back there and watch that. And
that's
be
awesome.
part of that.
That's awesome. Now in '86, when I got to tell you, my sister was friends with Ricky Soulfield. Remember Ricky?
Yep.
And who was really good, was tight with Gene Mock. If you guys had gotten in it, we were going to go to the series at Shea Stadium when you came here, and those playoffs were amazing. People forget what the Mets did, against Boston, but even with you guys playing each other and Dave Henderson hitting that home run, what are the odds? You guys were on the top step, ready to celebrate when he hit that home run.
You look at the Houston series too. Was a great.
It was an amazing series. Yeah.
86 overall, maybe one of the greatest postseason
playoffs of all time. Yeah.
But 86 had a different component to it. Our ballpark at that time was about 64, almost 65,000 seats.
Right.
It was enclosed. It was a phenomenal. I mean, it's the last big ballpark. It was the Cleveland Municipal and then ours.
Right.
But you look at Mr. Autry. It was kind of like, that was the storyline, the nation's storyline is Gene Autry's finally going to get his World Series.
That's right. The singing cowboy from the old days in the movies.
Yep.
My mom loved him.
I think there's a lot of times that, that media kind of set aside their objectivity and were polling privately and someone outwardly for Mr. Autry to be there. And, after everything that happened to us in '82 and we had the 2-0 lead against Milwaukee and lost that, losing 3 straight in Milwaukee.
Right.
People are polling. If you go back and look at the video and you see all the stadium guards on the warning truck, that wouldn't happen today. The horses and the police, and it's just a different time. And boom, it flipped on the dime. But if you go back and look as well, Al Michaels, who's going in as a Ford Frick recipient this year, or be honored as a Ford Frick recipient, still called Game 5 of the '86 playoffs the greatest baseball game he ever called. There was so many dynamics to that game and series. And we went back to Fenway and, for all intent and purposes, we're out of it within the first 3 innings in both games. But man, the emotion put forth by that club and what everybody went through was, but I'll tell you, at the end after Game 7, we were at the Marriott Copley, and as all of us came down off the elevator to get ready to go on the bus to go to the airport, Mr. Autry was down there, and he was shaking people's hands, congratulating them on a great season, telling everybody to pick their head up. We'll get after it again next year. And, unfortunately, there wasn't another next year until 2002.
Right. And that 2002 team, you guys didn't think you were going to win going in? because I thought you guys were the only ones that could beat the Yankees because you had that middle relief. The Yankees used to beat on teams when they would wait for the 100 pitch count. They would beat on the next guy if the guy was rolling, if it was going good.
I don't
But
know.
you guys had better middle and relief and closer, and they couldn't do it.
I don't know that club played 27 outs each and every day.
You were great.
Itself.
You were great.
So I don't know if you can go back and we'll have people ever say that I don't think we had a chance, or I think the pundits didn't think we had a chance against the Yankees. And,
I did because you guys were tough enough.
Yeah.
You got to be tough to stand up to them.
Well, yeah. I mean, it gave them it was one of their toughest postseasons in the history of that franchise with what we did in that series.
Right.
But ultimately, we lost the first game of each round.
You did.
The division, the LCS, and the World Series. And that was a club that did not have a future Hall of Famer. It had no MVP, and it had nobody with World Series experience. But what that club, and if you look at historically, it's one of the rare clubs with that description. But really what that club did was they came to play every day. It had a bunch of baseball rats, and they were ultimately the most selfless club, not just because they won, but the most selfless club I've been around. Adam Kennedy and Scott Spezio and David Eckstein,
right?
Tim Salmon, Garrett Anderson. They all did. Runner on second, nobody out. He was on third base. First to third, Sosha ingrained the confidence to run. So they got over the fear in 2000 and 2001 of not being afraid to make an out on the bases.
You guys, yeah. And you know what? The Yankees were so good. You had to force it. Because if you didn't run, if you didn't take that extra base or do that extra, bunt or whatever, they would just beat you. Every run was so crucial for any team to get against them because they knew they were going to come back. They knew they were great. And you just had to look at them eye to eye and go, I'm not afraid of you. We're going to beat you. And that's what you guys did.
Well, Bob and Rob, I think it takes care of, if you take care of your own business things, I don't care whether it's baseball or other, you get results based on what you do. So you don't get outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You believe in each other.
Right.
From Benji Molina behind the plate, obviously Percy and Frankie on the back end. That group loved each other. That group, we started 6-14, and there were calls for Bill Stoneman or Mike Sosha to be fired in April.
I can't believe that because they were both great.
Yeah,
wow.
That club won 99 games.
Yeah, that's right.
So it played hard. It never gave up on itself as a unit. They just didn't. And I think the results bore it out. Sometimes, and I think history show this, if you're a wild card team, sometimes you bear a little bit of an advantage going into October because you have that momentum of having to play at a certain level in September to get there. And we scuffled in mid to late September and then hit the just hit the streak and rode it. And rode it for 11 wins, 11 very important wins.
Yeah. And how about Figgins? The Yankees, I still think they can't get him out, and he don't play no more. They hated when he came to bat. I loved him because I'm not a Yankee fan. I'm a Met fan, actually. Well, I can't stand the Yanks. I can't.
Figgy had a great personality. He was, was talented, ended up obviously playing multiple positions.
Right.
Just the base stealer. And Sean came in and scored the run in the I think in game 6,
in
the 8th inning or the 7th inning, was just such a key for us. But Sean fit in; he slotted in. He was a product of the system.
Right.
Our minor league system was developing a lot of good players at that time.
Yeah, you were.
A lot of things. If you look back, even during the period of time, like I was the assistant GM. Bob Fontaine was the scouting director. Billy Bavasi was the GM.
Right,
and there were people we had some September letdowns in 97, 98. And you look at Jimmy Edmonds and Anderson and Salmon and Gloss forthcoming. There was an opportunity to maybe make some trades and better ourselves, but there was a lot of patience exercised even with the disappointment. And I think that patience ultimately was rewarded in 2002 and really beyond when you look at that decade from 2002 through 2009 and then the last appearance in 2014. But that was a great run, and save for 2003, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 6, we would have had a long stretch of postseason appearances.
You guys were the only ones before the Reds. You were great. you guys were the only ones that can really stand up to the Yankees until 2004 when they finally got it together.
Well,
I knew the Red Sox weren't good enough to do it.
yeah, there was some, there was some regular season success against the Yankees as
Oh
well.
yeah, you
Not
guys used to battle. Oh yeah,
not just the postseason, but the regular
right.
season. I think at one point we had the best record in the American League against the Yankees over the course of 4 or 5 years. And there were just some great battles.
Yeah,
And, showdown series. And the club knew when you came into New York or the Yankees came to Anaheim, you knew there was something special about that series. And
right.
I do believe a major league player bears down each and every day, but there's heightened awareness when there's certain series or matchups,
Mm-hmm.
and your game or the focus is elevated somewhat. And the club had this knack for rising to the occasion during that period of time.
What's the future of the club looking like, Tim?
Yeah, look, I think Rob. I think they made some changes. I thoroughly enjoyed working with Jerry Dipoto and Billy Epler in their roles over the course of their 9 years. Perry Manassian's come in. I think with Joe Madden and his enthusiasm and passion, I think they found that proper balance or appropriate balance that works for them between analytics and just go play baseball a little bit. And there's room for both. It's too bad, like a lot of topics we want to debate, that it has to be one or the other. I think there's a common ground in the game. The Angels have found that. I think you're seeing now Shohei has been opened up to kind of rely on how he feels. There's a lot of protection early for the right reasons, because he was such it's so unknown to know how he would respond to our schedule. But now Perry and Joe and the training staff have brought a little bit different approach for Shohei this year, and I think it's paying dividends. You take care of that blister problem he had early. But I think it's very, very promising, not just because I work there, but I can't remember so many stories about chemistry and clubhouse environment that I've read in spring training and heard players talk about since. And you can say everything you want to about talent wins out and all that rhetoric and things, but there is something.
Not all the time.
There's something about being together 180 plus days, believing in each other. You brought in some great guys. Kurt Suzuki obviously fills a great role. There's just good people from what I hear. Cobb coming over. There's a premium put on environment and culture. And I like the word culture when it comes out in baseball, because you as a general manager can put together talent. You can put together what you think is going to win. But the players themselves ultimately decide chemistry and put that together.
Okay, and what about when you played San Francisco in the World Series? Tell us about that a little bit.
It's just a great series. I mean,
yeah.
It was Bonds versus Percival and Bonds versus Frankie Rodriguez, and the tone was set in that first inning in Anaheim when Bonds homered off Jared Washburn, and Wash looks back to get the ball and looks at Benjamin Molina like, okay, he's everything is advertised. We got that first home run out of the way. Now let's go. And we challenged him through that series, and he got his walks, but he was challenged. Percy with a 2-run lead at one time pitched to him, and he hit the bomb into the tunnel way.
Sure did.
But again, I get back to, it was great to see an all West Coast series.
Sure.
I think everybody talks about ratings and how people feel about it. It was great for baseball to have a long freeway series, not the I-5 with the Dodgers and Angels that everybody still hopes for, including me. There was a lot of talent. I think it was a fun series. That baseball and the baseball community got a Game 7. It was always wonderful. When you go through a Game 7, you kind of look back at the first day of spring training and you think, wow, we came all this way to a Game 7 of the World Series. And one of our former pitchers called me before we started the series. They said, hey, tell those guys it's not good enough to get there. You got to win. And
well, that's right.
Take it home, boys.
Yeah. And believe me, if I'd been able to sign up for 4 straight World Series appearances, I wouldn't have complained. Go there in the first one and be part of a championship. Pardon me.
God bless you.
Sorry about that. Very special. And again, it was a great group, and to watch Soch, his vision. I credit Mike Socha to so many things. He turned around the franchise, that he took it from, he taught not just the players on the field, but the front office. Competing isn't good enough. We compete. We hope to compete this year. That's hope.
Yeah, right.
Mike's word was contend. Contending is a statement. Okay, we expect to contend, and I'd go out speaking after the years, and if we didn't win or didn't make a postseason, then we failed. We didn't
Absolutely.
play 63. And you know what? At some point, you got to tell the public. You got to tell the public the truth. If you're not rebuilding or retooling and you expect to win, tell them you expect to win.
Right.
Nobody loves a lovable loser.
No.
Well, they don't remember him either. You know
That's
what?
true.
You know what? That's why I knew you guys could take the Yankees out, because it wasn't. And we had Mike on the other day. We actually got him on, and he said that came from his Dodger days, how they always taught him the proper way, and Lasorda taught him the proper way, and yeah, that's absolutely true. You guys were tough enough to beat them, and you had to be. You really had to be, because the Yanks were tough.
Well, it was a good club. It's in the midst of all their championships and all.
Yeah.
And it was a good series. I mean, we may have come out on top and scored the runs, but that's a Joe Torre team, and there was no easy Joe Torre team.
Nope.
And I think it was.
Nope.
I think there was a lot of mutual respect, Soch and Joe. But I remember standing on the field calling my wife, game one. I'm saying, here it is. You're at the epicenter of baseball, fall baseball at Yankee Stadium. And here we go. And you knew we lost a tough game in game one. And I can remember Scott Spezio at his locker and being interviewed. And he goes, you know what? That was fun.
It really does sound like, as you were experiencing these moments, that you didn't just live them. You also were aware and recognized the magnitude of them as well.
He appreciated them. That's what it is.
You have to. I mean, we always talk about living in the present and being tunnel visioned, and that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. But look at the perspective, because it's something that's going to be remembered, and you're being part of history. And there's so many elements and variables that are part of something. Look, after we won Game 7, I was on the field, and I always thought, if you're ever fortunate enough to be part of a World Championship club, that that I might get emotional. Right? I went on the field. My best friend and I. We looked at our families in the stands, and I had to go do the "We're going to Disney" commercial. But I absorbed the moment of 43,000 plus people coming together for one thing. Very few of us in our lifetime will go to an event and be part of something where you can go to a game and people like it because you won, but most people aren't going to remember that game on a Tuesday night in April or May that you came from behind. They will never forget winning a World Series. And it's what it did to a community. It's what it did for the history of the franchise. The Angels were no longer, kind of looked at as a second class in baseball. They became an upper division organization. And that's something you strive for.
And Disney owned you when you won it, right?
Disney owned us, and we're actually in the process of looking to sell us, right. Totally unbeknownst to us. Artie Moreno, I believe, was at the game 7.
Yeah.
At that point, and enjoying the series and not knowing what the future was. But at that moment, at whatever it was, 8/27 on October 27th, we were as important to the Disney company for winning a World Series as anything in the company at that precise moment. And I would tell you that one of the great things about Disney after the sale, even though they were selling us at that moment, everything that we needed to do in 2002 and celebrate afterwards, Disney stepped up and let the organization do it. They also gave us a ballpark, back from a stadium, and that is a ballpark. Right. So I have nothing but wonderful memories and thoughts regarding Disney and their ownership. It was a fantastic time.
Yeah, that's great. Now, you almost didn't get the commercial for Disney when you were they were celebrating, right? You had to wait, and then I'm going to Disneyland or Disney World.
It escapes me a little bit, Bob, now who the first group were, but I had two members of my staff, and we were reaching into the pile and pulling guys off, and okay, it's time.
Right.
One of the producers of that commercial wanted us to line players up in advance, and as well as I do that if you're going into Game 7 of a World Series, you do not talk to a player about winning a game. You don't even have the conversation. It was tough enough to
just leave that one alone.
That's right.
Right.
Some people didn't understand that at the time. But we pulled 3 or 4 guys off to start it, and we looked around, and the camera crew wasn't out there. And I just kind of made that decision at the moment that, you know what, these guys have waited all of their lives for that moment. I'm not going to make them stand around for a crew that's not there. So we just yelled at them, get back in there. And then about 2-3 minutes later, the crew got out. We pulled, I think it was Eck was part of it. And I think Salmon, AK, and they did the commercial. And I have a handwritten note from Michael Eisner saying at that point in time, that was the best "We're Going to Disney" commercial or spot that they had shot.
That's awesome. Now, were you nervous when Russell Ortiz was out there throwing the way he was, and finally they took him out? Were you overjoyed when they did? Because he was pretty tough that night.
Yeah, no, I didn't. The only time I got nervous, I just thought really 5-0.
Yeah, right.
It's God, we got here. Man, it would have been, it just battle back a little bit. Let's go out strong.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I got nervous in that postseason was with 2 outs in the 9th, Game 7, and I was down I was down right below the steps, and I could see Soch and Ron Runicky standing there, and the Anaheim SWAT squad was standing on his side. And it's 2 outs for runners on, 2 runners on. Kenny Lofton's up, and I went in the batting cage. There's more police standing there as well, and I quietly to myself said, "Dear God, please don't let this happen again. I've gone through 82 and I had gone through 86. You don't always need to pray when you just want something good to happen selfishly." But
Right.
That's the only time that I felt my knees shake a little bit.
Right.
And got selfish. I mean, I got selfish for the Angels, myself, and the fans.
Sure.
And then you're watching Lofton, and I saw the pitch on TV, and then they shifted to Ersty, and
Right.
that's when I ran out, up the steps to do what we had to do. And Erstad, as you've read many times, Darren said I heard one voice, one singular voice at that moment when the fly ball was coming to him, and that was his dad saying, "Catch the ball with 2 hands."
Wow.
All I
Wow.
remember. And if you look at it, that's what he did. He caught the ball with 2 hands.
2 hands. Yup. You know what? I'm not a big 100 pitch count guy. And, my brother back then was texting me, "Oh, it doesn't look good there," And the minute they took him out, I said, "No, the Angels are going to win now. They're going to come back. You wait and see." I knew at that moment. And I hate the 100 pitch count. I wish they would stop taking these guys out when they're going good. Just go by feel. If the guy's going good and he's not tired, let him go. And I remember one night, Tim, I'm texting you during the game, and you're playing the Yankees, and I'm watching it at home. And you had a third baseman who, and I can't remember his name offhand, forgive me, but he played on the Yankees previously. He was the one that took over for A-Rod. You didn't have him very long when A-Rod was suspended. And I kept saying the Yankees were laughing the night before because you guys threw too many fastballs, and they were showing highlights to you, like on the text. And you text me back, and I'm like, "Tell CJ Wilson to mix up his pitches and don't throw too many fastballs." And when the kid came up, you loaded the bases, and he threw the Yankees threw 2 high fastballs, and he swung through them. And I said, "Tim, if he throws one more, he's going to park it." And he never hit a home. It was his first homer ever. And he parked it, and you went, "Shh, we won." I never forget that as long as I live. It was so much fun. And you know what? And weirdly enough, and I talked to Mike about it, I go, and Mike came out, and I text, I go, "Tim, please tell me he's not going to take him." And he didn't take CJ out. He kept him in, and you guys beat him, and I was overjoyed, and so were you. I never forget that.
Well, you're not going to be applying for a credential to Yankee Stadium anytime soon, based on some of this.
No, they're going to beat me with a stick, a baseball bat, actually.
Yeah, believe me, we hear about how he dislikes the Yankees every show, Tim.
Yeah.
He's got a streak going. But
Yeah.
I think I have to pose the question that so many want to ask, and that's, how did the Rally Monkey come about?
It really started, you like to say that there's this great story on Madison Avenue and you paid $250,000 from experts. But it really started off with our outstanding entertainment crew on the scoreboard, ran a clip of Ace Ventura, Pet Detective,
yeah.
And in 2000, and just one of the scenes with the monkey, and it clicked with the fans. And then I think probably over a couple of adult beverages later on, the guys just stepped back and said, hey, why don't we try this? And it worked. And they came up with, these just different vignettes.
Oh, you name a movie scene or a theme, and the Rally Monkey's in it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's still Ghostbusters. It's still one of my favorites when you're walking down and you have the Rally Monkey replacing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a great one.
They had a lot of fun with it. And if you go back and look, Derek Jeter during the press conference, it may have been prior to game 3. I got to remember which one, but talking about the home field advantage. And, it was prior to game 3, home field advantage of the Angels. And he said, you mean that damn Rally Monkey? So I mean, even it used to be fun to sit there and watch visiting players who were coming to Anaheim for the first time, or the first few years that we rolled it out, to look back and watch the video. And then you could see them from the press box looking at each other and either laughing and kind of giving a thumbs up or thumbs down, but having fun with it, because that's part of what the stadium was known for.
Yeah, everybody loved it. It was wild.
Yeah, it's the Angels. It should be lighthearted and fun and joyful.
Yeah.
There you go.
Very much so. And if you look at it, it wasn't just the kids that enjoyed it. The adults have enjoyed it.
Yeah, they did.
Everyone loved the Rally Monkey.
Yeah.
I think Rob loves it still.
I still do. I still Google the scenes. I get all the skits.
Yeah, very, very much so.
So you guys, and I got to tell you, I worked at ESPN for 2 years as an intern. I went to broadcasting school and I did. And in 2004, this really happened. The first day I'm there, I meet Casey Stern. I did the Dream Job show, in case him and I were on the street in New York. That's where we filmed it. And he had a nice Red Sox sweater on, and he'd just gotten a job there. I go, you friends with the owner? And he went, yeah. I go, I want you to give him a message from me. I go, you know who you should pitch against them when you play them? He went, yeah, Tim Wakefield. I go, no, they kill him. He's got a real high lifetime ERA. I go, you want to pitch Derek Lowe? Just pitch Derek. And I go, just tell him, right? And weirdly enough, I feel I'm responsible for knocking them off and helping the Red Sox, because they did pitch him in that last game, and he shut the door on. They didn't beat him for 2 years, Tim. Not for 2 years. And I watch baseball every day. I love it so much. And I said to him, I go, I have a list, and the Angels players are on this list of players that I want to see play against the Yankees every day. And I'll have a list that I never want to see. I'll go, Wakefield's on that list of never. I go, but you know what? You have one, Schilling, and then Randy Johnson. They can never beat any of those guys. And when Tony and I talked before the Arizona series, I told him, I go, the home team's going to win every game. And you know what? They did. They did. But I knew that Schilling and Johnson, they couldn't beat. And the reason I know why you guys were great is because the Yankees were so great. If you could beat them, you're great. You can beat anybody, because they were always the best team. You know what I'm saying? For the most part. And that's how I view it.
And it's a good way to look at it, Bob. But the great thing about October baseball, man, you still have to go out there each night. And strange things that happened. The Seattle Mariners with 116 wins in 2001 were by far the best baseball team.
Yeah, but I didn't think they could beat the Yankees.
But they didn't win a World Series.
No, they did not.
But that's not to take away from it. It just really goes to reinforce the point that, you have to go out. You have to go out and do it. And
You do.
every situation counts. You have to manufacture runs when you're pitching and when you're hitting against a great pitcher. And your defense, you can't allow opportunities. But how everything's magnified in October, it's wonderful to watch. And the great thing about baseball, and I know this is a cliche, but so be it, you can't stop momentum. And in those series, we picked up momentum, and in a couple of games in particular, we picked it up. I always say this, and I have no druther saying it. We weren't the best talented team in 02. We were the best team.
Yep.
I think that a lot of people at the end of a season, the players themselves would far rather have the best team than you would the best group of players, because, I mean, historically speaking, teams have had the top two financially paid players or the greatest talent by rankings don't always win the World Series. And it takes David Eckstein to go to St. Louis and be a World Series MVP.
That's right, he did.
That's the beauty of the game. And when I look at 02, to say it once again, it was the best team, and I don't think anybody would challenge that.
No. And, well, the Yankees may, but no, I don't think anybody else. You know what? I think you were, because you had, I mean,
team.
Mike, you're right. And Mike would, like, move people, and he always had a clue and an idea how the game was playing out. He would put Schoen Weiss in when he had to. He would put Shields in when he had to. And then you had, Frankie Rodriguez, who was lights out against, and then Percival would close the door. So he always knew what to do, and you had to know.
Yeah,
you had to have a plan.
Mike knew how to put people in a position to succeed.
Yes, sir.
And I think that Mike, look, one of my only drawbacks or opinions right now is Mike Scioscia should be part of Major League Baseball, and the decision to put him in charge of the USA
was amazing.
Team is absolutely phenomenal, and a lot of that comes from the push of Tony Regans. Mike and Tony were a great combination, and I was proud to see that, because I think the baseball industry should be very grateful to what Mike will bring and his staff to Team USA, and I think it's good for Mike Scioscia too. Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't want him in Philly, before they got Girardi, when the job was open, because he's from there, he's from that area, and he was a great manager. And I asked Mike about it, and he went, well, it just kind of it happened, and that's all he said. And
Mike is a very humble, blue collar guy. He's team oriented. He's organization oriented.
Yeah.
But he is one of the brightest. I work for a great manager.
A true scholar of the game.
Yeah, we learned that.
That's a great way of looking at it, Rob. But I worked for several managers, obviously with the Angels, Mike for 19. But on the bookends, I started with Fregosi before he was let go, and then Gene Mauch took over.
Yeah.
Gene Mauch taught me from 23 on, taught me about the game. But to have done that, and I finished with Brad Osmus, but before that, Soch. And Brad Osmus is a smart baseball man too. But to have been around Mauch and Scioscia, I mean, that's like getting your PhD, your whatever, be a doctorate, everything else in baseball. And I'm just sorry I can't remember everything that I was taught.
You got to record the lecture so you can review it.
Absolutely.
Now, what made you take the Hall of Fame job?
The privilege and the blessing of working at the Hall of Fame. Not the title, none of that stuff. I mean, I had the best job in baseball in Anaheim, bar none.
You sure did.
I didn't think anybody had a better job than I did, and that's just the way I felt personally. But following in the footsteps of my dear friend Jeff Idelson, and working for Jane Forbes Clark and all her philanthropic contributions to this area, New York society, and to be able to walk through that plaque gallery when I wanted to by myself or see groups is just, it's an honor. I mean, I can't come up with different words other than an honor, but sometimes certain circumstances can affect even the perceived best situation or scenario. And, you can think of what it's going to be like and go through it. And, People talk about the challenges of the pandemic. We've all had challenges of the pandemic, all of us,
Sure.
to some degree. I've given it a shot here, and I've enjoyed the time, and we'll see what's next, but I will consider it a gift from the good Lord to have worked at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you leave because of your family? Did you want to go back home?
Well,
Or?
it's, I have a 2.5-year-old grandson, and I have a
Sure.
granddaughter coming in September, as I said, and it's a long trip. It's a long distance. You don't know something, like I said, until you can go through it.
Sure.
And
Yeah, right.
I just did
Well,
my best to make
I
sure
remember one time I texted you, you were in the airport in Chicago. So you were going back and forth.
Yeah, well, that's what you needed to, but it was
Right.
it was 2.5 months between trips home, and that can be hard. And I remember one day the last trip home, I had my suitcase out on the bed, almost as if I was a visitor at my own house, and that's tough because you go through it. The suitcase popped out an awful lot in 40 years, but the suitcase got put away until the next road trip too.
Sure.
And home is not your hotel.
That's true. I can't forget this. When you were there, you guys often invited Coach Wooden, and my brother would set it up. And my brother walked him out on the field in the World Series and throw out the first pitch.
Now, I have a picture here in the office of sitting on the dugout with Coach Wooden and
Right.
Ron O'Gara from Major League Baseball, and was just talking about him at lunch. It's amazing, Bob, and you know this better than anybody who's watching, that there are a lot of smart people that have come and gone in our world and academia and whatever.
Sure.
But really, true smartness and wisdom
Came from him.
is a Coach Wooden approach.
Yup.
You don't have to dazzle somebody with 16-syllable words and try to, overwhelm them with how smart you are. Really, the keys to life are simplicity.
Right.
And the obvious.
Hit the point. That's right.
Coach lived it. He taught it. He enacted it. He inspired you to live that way. And sometimes I look at books around us and I'm thinking, God, there's 430 pages of philosophical approach and belief and intellectual beliefs and integration of thoughts. What was Coach, success is peace of mind, blah, 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 blah. You just go through
Right. It's almost like he was writing Proverbs Part 2. Just one little liners, and it would just,
He was our Confucius.
Yeah, right. Our King Solomon. Yep, that's it.
Yeah. If you ever say that there was somebody, pardon me.
That's
if you
okay.
ever say that there was somebody touched from the hand of God, it was Coach.
It was
Wooden.
him.
And
I was just playing that song on the way to the hotel here. I just had to mention that. Sorry.
Well,
That's a no.
I had another one who was very much the same way, and that was John Scalinas at Cal Poly Pomona, a Division II baseball coach. He was very much the same person.
Right.
And for me,
To me, that's the real wisdom. Yeah.
to be around those people who saw life in a much different way, we're blessed. So I think sometimes we go through and we try to complicate it. And if you look at Coach Wooden, you look at the personalities, treated everybody the same. He had the same approach. He didn't waver from it. Family first and all the other decisions he made, and to teach and educate people. And not just that his legacy will continue for years to come, but his teachings and impact on people that never met him continue for years to come. And I think that's really the greatest tribute somebody can ever go through.
Well, that's right. A real star is remembered long after he's gone. That's it.
And really, you don't need awards and statues and monuments.
No.
You need the teachings and the way that somebody lived life, and again, the sage advice and wisdom.
Right.
That's the greatest gift you can leave in society.
That's exactly right.
And it's timeless.
It is timeless, Rob. And I'll give you an example of that. Is if you go back and look at, it's probably 4 years ago now, I think, Coach Garrett, when he was with the Cowboys, used their mantra for the year was 17 inches. 17 inches.
Really?
Look it up on Google. It came from John Scalinas during a convention, the National Coaches Convention, may have been Nashville, but it was a speech he gave, and he came out wearing a home plate around his neck. Everybody laughed, and he had a few thousand people there. And that's how high regard. Now, Coach had been retired. He's in his 80s, but he talked about change in the game, changing life. And basically what he said was there's certain things that just are standard. Why, if somebody can't throw within that 17 inches, do we keep expanding? Why would we want to expand the plate? Because you can't do what you need to do,
Right.
or what you need to learn to do, or what's
Right.
worked. And
Right.
coaches both in stitches, quiet, and in awe, so much so that another sport on the highest level incorporated his message to people who had no idea who John Scalinas was, and he'd long since passed.
Yeah, that's it.
Look that
You know
up.
what? You're right, because once you learn what's right and you
We'll
start
be
doing
providing
what,
a link to that, by the way, folks.
and once you learn what's right and start doing what's right, you don't need to expand until maybe, you start doing something wrong. You're right. That's totally true.
It's one of the great, look, there's so many things from Coach Wooden, but the John Scalinas, if you had seen Coach Scalinas and Coach Wooden speaking together, it would have affected your life in a way, the rest of your life. You would have changed things. You would have been inspired, not for what you could do on a baseball field or on a basketball
But in
court,
life.
the way you live your life.
Right. Yeah, and see, that's exactly. We actually had, and Coach Wooden loved Mother Teresa. He really did. We had Coach Dale Brown on, who met her, and he was telling us about her and how amazing she was. So, those people. I mean, I met Coach in New York and sat with him, and he just, he blew my mind. And I walked away and thought to myself, "Wow, am I dumb?" Because he's so amazing. He was so amazing.
Yep.
He was so unbelievable.
Well, when you can talk to somebody that makes you feel that you have their undivided attention at all
Yeah.
times.
Right.
That's he was a listener, he was an observer, he was simple,
Mm-hmm.
and he was consistent,
Right.
and he cared, and
did.
he was sage beyond sage.
Right. And I know he meant a lot to your team whenever he came to visit.
Very much so. I mean, he was one of, when he passed and your brother and the department reached out, Soch was one of the ones that they'd asked to be there at that service, because
Right.
he was so fond of Mike. And,
Right.
it's like anything else. When you saw Muhammad Ali, you said champ. When you saw Mr. Autry, you'd say Mr. When you see Coach Wood, you'd say coach.
Yep.
There's titles that stay with people the rest of their lives that are earned out of respect
Yep.
and reverence.
Right.
He deserved both, and for as long as we walk the face of the earth.
Yep. That's absolutely right. So now my brother and I were going to come visit you up there. Now you're going to give us a grand tour. Now you're not there. We can't go.
Well, I'll make sure you still get that grand tour.
Oh, thank you. We wanted to come up and see Jeter's Day. That's what we wanted to do.
Well, yeah, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be a little bit different, and we postponed for a year, and you get through COVID, but hopefully this time next year we're on to even bigger and better things. And
Yeah. Let's hope so.
Derek's been a trooper about this, and it's not easy, but it'd be very difficult to postpone again for a third year or for a second year.
Absolutely.
Going into 22, and that stage could get crowded next year. Who knows?
Do you have any idea who's taking over for you up there when you leave?
In the process of those discussions, we lost Joe Morgan as a vice chair.
Right.
The board, Phil Necro on the board, and then this role. So kind of wait and see, philosophically where we're going to go in the future. And I wish the next person, I hope it's a friend of mine, as I was of Jeff's. And we want nothing but the best for this institution, because it represents so much that is good. So much that is good about the game on all levels.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Tony and I, as much as we love it, we've never been to Cooperstown. I still think my older brother.
I've never been to Cooperstown either.
I still think my brother did, because my parents used to go every year before I was born, and but he says no, and I've never been there, and we really wanted to go see it. And thank you. I will tell him you will take care of us. I will tell him.
Perfect. So thank you guys. Thank you.
So
We'll have to do a show live from Cooperstown, Bob.
Yeah, we'll do it. Oh yeah, we'll do it.
Perfect.
Now, are you retired officially, or?
No, I'm just going home.
He's going home.
I'm going home. I'm going to try to become the best, I've told guys, the best French fryer that In-N-Out ever had, and then try to get people a employee discount
Yeah.
Social the night we won the World Series, went to, I think it was on Chapman Avenue, went to that In-N-Out. I know a lot of major league people, players, and staff come by, and they come to California. They want to go to In-N-Out, so we'll see what we can do. But I'm not retired, Bob. I don't have the energy to sit still.
I understand. I'm kind of like that myself, you know.
So I have to ask you, Tim, amongst the current active players and coaches, who would you speculate will become Hall of Famers?
Oh yeah, Mike Trout.
You got to obviously Albert, obviously Trout. You got to look at, you think Scherzers and the Verlanders and folks like that. And there's so many great players. Some careers are just unfolding now before our eyes. I think it's almost probably a little over a third of players voted by the BBWA or first ballot. I think it's a high percentage. I think there's so much talent in the game today, but I think you start having that conversation probably at the 8 to 10 year mark. Obviously, you have to be in the game 10 years, so I try not to get caught up in it, too early. Almost really, Rob, to look at it at the time that they would be eligible for the Hall of Fame. So that conversation really isn't appropriate to me until you've hit 10 years and you're actually eligible.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I think it was downtown Tim Brown wrote the article, Mike Trout.
Yeah.
That is 10 years in, that said now he's eligible to go to where he's going to belong.
Were you surprised he re-signed with them?
No.
Because you weren't.
No, absolutely not. Unequivocally not. I could have told a lot of writers to, not to get too worked up about. Mike is about loyalty.
Definitely.
Married his high school sweetheart. He lives in outside of Millville. He has two of the most wonderful parents ever. He takes care of his teammates. He loves the fan base. He takes care of people. If you know Mike Trout, you know loyalty. And I've said, it's been quoted saying this 1,000 times, and I hope I have the opportunity to do it 10,000 times more. But as good a ball player as he is a much better person.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what's funny? When he was 18, he's from New Jersey, Vineland, South Jersey, and they came up to my town. I don't want to say what town, but they came up to my town to play the All-Star game, and I happened to, and the park is a block away, so I went down and, who's playing tonight? And he hit a home run so far they're still looking for it.
Yeah.
I'm not even.
He's a special kidding. Player. It goes to show how inexact scouting can be, and guys work very hard on it. But the fact that he was available that deep into the draft is a blessing.
Yeah,
for fans forever will be. He's just a special. He's the brother you would like. He's the son you want. He's the son-in-law you want. He's going to be he's a fantastic father. He doesn't give in to what other people want him to be. He's just Mike. When he goes home in the wintertime, he's Mikey from Millville, and now he's a dad. He's what a baseball player. It's no accident that he grew up idolizing Derek Jeter. How do you conduct yourself? How do you handle yourself? That's what Mike Trout is all about. So
yeah, definitely. And you know what? I remember one time, Tim, when you got us passes and Tony and I were there, and you shook my hand and you said, my only regret is I never got you into baseball. Thank you so much that you never got me into baseball. It was such a great thing to say, and I love you for that. Thank you.
Bob, you've been pursuing it, and you know what? You can be part of baseball in a different way, and you're part of baseball this way.
Well, I hope so.
Absolutely.
I hope so. And thank you for all you've been and all you've done for Tony and I, and we love you, and God bless you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you both. I look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, we were going to say
absolutely,
Tim. Come back.
From In-N-Out. See you later.
In-N-Out Burger, live from the In-N-Out Burger, the sports show.
That's right.
That's it. Take care, Tim. Be well and stay peaceful.
As well. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tim, and I'll see you soon. Come back whenever you want.